Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I'm Tuomas Sauliala. I'm working at Reaktor. I've been there for a couple of years already. And as mentioned, I'm a bit interested in cars, especially electric cars and autonomous cars. Something about myself. I did my studies at Espoo, Otaniemi Technical University. Not at machine engineering, not at computer science, but the electrical engineering department. It's the one with low voltage things like telecommunications, but also very high voltage things like national grids and stuff like that. So it was a very good place to see what electric power actually means and what it can do. My topic here today is the bright future of cars and mobility. So let's begin. Autonomous cars. This one is a Jaguar I-Pace equipped with autonomous technology by Google or Waymo, if you wish. It's probably the most well-known autonomous car brand there is. Google has been doing experiments with autonomous cars maybe 10 years already, and they've been driving already 5 billion miles, live miles on the roads. In addition, they have done huge amount of computer simulation with other use cases. Another example of autonomous car would be this one. It's a bit unfortunate. You may have heard the incident in Arizona about a month ago where an Uber autonomous car drove over a pedestrian. It was the first known fatal accident of autonomous car. The car could not recognize a lady walking over the street, even when there wasn't too bad conditions. It was dark, yes, but the speeds were not too big. It wasn't raining or anything like that. My own personal opinion is that that accident or incident should have been avoided with modern sensor and AI technology. After the incident, Uber suspended all activities in Arizona. They are continuing their autonomous projects elsewhere. Also, Google has been really active in Arizona. Also, in April, Google announced that they are continuing their test drives without the safety driver behind the wheel. So the car does have a person inside the car, but he or she is not sitting behind the steering wheel. This is a big leap, once again, ahead in autonomous car technology. The other interesting tech, which I already mentioned, the electric cars and electrical powertrains, are of course here already. This one is a picture taken in Austria, just east from Innsbruck, and I took this picture already 4 years ago. So I've been driving electric cars quite a while already. This one was, should I say, one of the most interesting trips, because the trip began from Munich, southern Germany. So I had a good chance to test drive the Tesla S85 at the German autobahns with relatively high speeds, as fast it basically could go, and also crossing the Alps to Austria. And there was absolutely no doubt already 4 years ago that electric powertrain is superior to anything else we have. There's really no question of that. And it's kind of surprising that the car so superior was already available 4 years ago, and still we are making progress on electric cars. Of course, Tesla is not the only company working on electrification. This one is a German BMW i8, very interesting car. It's not electric, it's a plug-in hybrid, but it's in many aspects and in many ways, I would say it's the best car I've ever driven. It's not as powerful as Tesla. It doesn't accelerate as fast from 0 to 100 km, but it maneuvers and drives better than anything else I have ever driven. It has carbon fiber body. It has gasoline engine, so owner of i8 is still able to spend time in lovely gas stations, drinking, well, coffee or something. It has electric engine, so it has the, should I say, pros of the both worlds. You can drive long distances with gas, but in cities and in traffic jams, you are able to drive with electricity easily without any emissions, without any sounds. And third car, which I would like to introduce is, well, Jaguar I-Pace, already mentioned. This is very interesting car too. This was actually introduced at Helsinki, and the first customers are going to get it later this year. It's the first car with big battery, which is made by someone else but Tesla. So many manufacturers have plans, but this is the first non-Tesla big battery electric car. But while driving these cars, while reading the news, while talking to professionals making the electric car and making the autonomous car, making the sensors, AI, like Johan Himberg just did, it's quite self-evident to me that actual fully autonomous car is not here today and it's not here tomorrow. Through this, that no one has the autonomous car ready. Yes, there are a lot of cars, those Waymo cars and stuff like that, but they are experiments running on relatively small areas which are very well mapped. The fully autonomous car, meaning a car that can drive wherever a relatively experienced human driver could drive, is maybe 10 or 20 years ahead. It requires huge amount of work, both in GPU, the chip side, and at the AI, the algorithmic side. Also, we have news about this. For example, the Volvo is reportedly scaling down their very ambitious plans on autonomous cars. Volvo was supposed to have about 100 cars, autonomous cars, driving at the streets of Sweden last year already, and a couple of other cities and countries. But they're now scaling that plan down. Also, the car already mentioned, the Tesla, they have a system called Autopilot, Autopilot 1, Autopilot 2, which pretty much has nothing to do, or very little to do, with autonomous car. Autopilot is not autonomous car. Autopilot is advanced driver assistance system. It keeps the lane, it keeps the distance to the car in front of you. Basically, every manufacturer has that system on their cars. But Tesla does it really well. But their promises for the future technology have been, should I say, optimistic, and according to some news, they need to reimburse some of their customers because of the delays in autopilot technology. And what about the electric cars? They are here already. Already 4 years ago, I drove in Austria, Germany. I've been driving in winter in Sweden. I've been driving in Finnish Lapland, everywhere, with all electrics. In Europe, we are about to sell 16 million cars this year, but only 200,000 of them will be all electrics. Number of plug-in hybrids is going to be, of course, much bigger, but all electrics are only about 1% of the whole sales. That's not very much, considering that the technology is here practically already. What is happening now? Apparently, the future is far ahead. Right now, the market is changing. This is already 1 year old news. Intel, the company you all know, chose to buy a Mobileye. Mobileye is probably a company none of you have heard, or maybe just a few of you have heard, with quite staggering $15.3 billion. That has to be something really remarkable, considering the amount of money they used. Mobileye is an Israeli tech company. They provide these advanced driver assistance systems, and they are aiming for fully autonomous car. The Tesla Autopilot 1 used the Mobileye. Now the Tesla Autopilot 2 uses in-house Tesla technology. Mobileye tech is used in many Western cars. It's quite common in cars nowadays. Also, considering the electrification, Volkswagen, if not the biggest, then the second biggest car company of the world, announced 20 billion investments in electric cars. If you Google around a bit, you'll find much bigger numbers. Point is that truckloads of money are going into investments right now. It's clear that big names are on the move. Another thing we have, which, looking at first glance, has nothing to do with autonomy, or probably not even with electric cars, are the mobility brands. MOIA is the German Volkswagen company. I guess most of you have not heard of that. It has surprisingly bright Finnish roots. We have a fireside chat later today where we have director of Finnish MOIA local, so please come there. Drive Now, you probably all know that. Those cars are widely available at Helsinki and many other European cities. It's a BMW company. And then we have a Daimler, also known as Mercedes-Benz, doing pretty much the same thing as Drive Now is doing. These companies, these services, are mobility services. They are not utilizing electric car, not very much, but they will be utilizing it a lot. They are not utilizing any autonomous technologies, but they will benefit a lot with even the first steps of autonomy. They don't require full autonomy to do their thing, but even the lower levels of like automated parking would do a lot. Luckily, also, there is a good market for smaller brands. What are the companies doing the autonomous car? Of course, we have the established companies, all big names, you all know them, Ford, GM, Tesla, whatever. I consider Tesla being established company. Not everybody agrees, but that's how I choose to write it here. Then a second big one is Silicon Valley giants. If we look back to history, say 10 years, nobody would have said that Google or Apple would be competing with General Motors in car tech. That would have been nonsense. It's not a nonsense anymore. Actually, yesterday there was a news in New York Times telling that Apple is making cooperation with Volkswagen. Volkswagen is building an autonomous van with Apple technology. That was quite interesting news. It was yesterday in New York Times. You can Google it, you'll find it. Also Uber, Lyft, Intel, Nvidia, they are all companies from Silicon Valley, which, looking at the first glance, they have nothing to do with cars, but then if you look a bit further, you'll find that they are actually quite deep in car technology. And then at the third row, we have the not to forget companies. We have companies which you may recognize from your refrigerator or your coffee machine, or maybe from the labels of your mobile phone, or maybe you have never heard of them. Many of them are suppliers of modern car industry. They may be Chinese or Far East giants, which we may not know that well. And then they are also startups, including, for example, the Aurora company. And then, who is making the electric car? Well, once again, we have the established companies, you all know them. We have the new first-level Tier 1 companies of industry supply chain. And then we have, once again, we have companies which you may recognize from the labels of your TV or your refrigerator or maybe your phone. Samsung, Panasonic, LG, Chem. They are all providing batteries. Panasonic has joined forces with Tesla at their Gigafactory, and the rest of these companies are doing their own factories in Far East, maybe in Europe, maybe in Northern America. The first one which I would like to highlight is the CATL. Once again, I consider you may not have heard of it. It's a Chinese battery giant. You might want to remember that company because it owns major part of car factory of Uusikaupunki, Uudenkaupungin autotehdas. So imagine this, Chinese battery factory, giant owns part of company we consider very Finnish. In addition, we have a ton of Chinese companies, many of them giants, which we have never heard of, and they are making their own parts for electric car. Why? Why are they all investing so much? Why are they spending billions on the future mobility technology, electrification, and autonomous tech. There are many reasons, of course. In China, especially, the emissions and the air quality is a big issue. Government really wants to reduce the pollution, and one of the very good ways to do that and achieve that is use electric cars. Quite obvious. But there's one very, very simple reason, which you all understand very well. It's money. We could look at the market. How big market are we talking about? Just to give some comparison. Annual phone sales, including the app sales, is something like 500, a bit more, billion dollars. Annual car sales is 3 times bigger. The market is staggering. This $1.5 thousand billion does not include, it doesn't include parking lots, fuels, oil industry. It doesn't include repairs, aftermarket. It doesn't include public transport, buses. It only includes the passenger car manufacturing and selling. So you can all understand that the market is really, really, it's staggeringly big. Now I've mentioned many names, many company names. Some of them make these refrigerators, and some of them make mobile phones. Some of them make cars. But what's in common to all of these companies mentioned? There's one very, very important thing. They are all software companies, or becoming one. Car industry, with all its supply chain, is built with software. Value of software is growing fast in car industry. And now comes the good part for you. These mobility services we are about to have soon and during the next 10 or maybe 20 years, they all need to be designed. They need designers to make these things happen. Future car is driven with software. And future mobility is made by developers and designers, people like you. This is something I would like you to think a bit. Cars are not that much about oil or tire changes anymore. They are about software. It's your job. Road to Future and Road to Future Mobility starts now. Don't wait for 20 years to drive some American or Chinese-made car. Do it with you, with your company. Thank you.